Welcome back to the Leadership Lounge. This is where I shine the light on some leaders who are doing it right, and today is no exception. Some leaders walk into a room and everyone breathes easier. Maggie Brady is one of those leaders. She brings that rare mix of intuition, emotional intelligence, and truth-telling that turns hard moments into defining ones. For nearly 20 years, Maggie has shaped human-first organizations across multiple countries and complex corporate landscapes. She reads a room fast, names what others avoid, and delivers it with honesty and heart, a skill that builds trust instantly. She leads with clarity, elevates the people around her, and carries a grounded confidence you can feel immediately. Leaders like Maggie don't just talk about culture and character, they build it. Welcome to the show, my friend.
Hey, that was a great intro. I'm great. Thank you.
Thanks. I'm so happy you're here. Let me turn this guy off. There we go. So let's get started. People are already joining and they're already commenting when we're going to give some shout outs in just a moment. But let's introduce you and tell people who they're talking to. Share a little bit about your story, my friend.
Yes, thank you. All right, so my story, there's a significant dividing line in my story. So I'm going to summarize it in terms of the pre and the post 2019. So pre 2019, like my adult life, I graduated college, I was a collegiate swimmer, went to work for a Big Four consulting firm doing change management work, then went to get my MBA full time, go Hoosiers, got married, and then joined GE as part of their HR leadership program. And really from that point on, I had rapid career growth at HC Supply, which was private equity backed at the time, and then Fiserv, which was a Fortune 500 company. When I left Fiserv, I was a VP leading a global team. I was part of the senior HR leadership team working with the CHRO, and it was a Fortune 250 company at that time. So that was all like in my late 30s. And I also had 3 little babies. I had 3 kids 5 years apart. So when I look back at that part of my life, I'm tired for that version of me. I don't know how she did it. Give her a lot of props. But yeah, I think we'll unpack this, but there were also some bad habits, I think, that formed because of how driven I was. So anyhow, the dividing line was April 9th, 2019. That's when my dad passed away, and it was really unexpected. Pretty tragic. He was diagnosed with cancer, stage 4 cancer, 9 weeks before that, and really a month before that had no symptoms. So shock and awe. And I was with him when he took his last breath. And for anyone who's experienced that, it really changes you in a way that I can't even really fully describe. So the post 2019 story for me, everything shifted. Everything I had questioned about my life, or everything about my life, I should say, I started to question. And so on the surface, I was navigating grief, obviously. About a year later, I got divorced. I was trying to learn how to co-parent and help my kids through a lot of change. And I was still grinding it out on the work front, because that's what I do. That's all I knew. I was good at it, and it brought a sense of what I thought was joy. I might describe that differently now. Yeah. And so, but there's a lot of unraveling that was happening underneath. In 2021, I went to join my first tech startup. So after being in that kind of Fortune public company space, that was a big leap, but I felt called to it, and I loved it. And I was promoted to head of people there. So again, like kind of this iconic like milestone was achieved there. I loved my team. It was really high performing. And again, October 23, I was faced with another really tragic, kind of unexpected ending. That startup failed. It shut down without really any notice, and there was no severance. And I know, it's awful. And I remember waking up the next day, it was a Friday, and I was like, what do I do? Like, who am I without this job, without this title? Will I ever get that title again? I don't have a paycheck. Who am I, given all of this success I've achieved? I'm now applying for unemployment. Like, it rocked me.
Yeah, you're not alone in thinking that. And I think
Yeah.
that's a really common, you feel like your compass has been misplaced and you're like,
Yes.
where do I go from here? And, you're not alone in feeling that, whether your company fails or you get laid off or you get fired. I mean, all of those moments are so earth shaking to us. So Yeah, keep going. And then I have a question that's going to tie this all up with a really pretty bow.
Yeah, so to that point, so I think I was definitely grieving, and I allowed myself, like my therapist named it for me. I never really associated job loss,
Yeah.
but I hadn't gone through it that way. So I took probably the first 2 months to just rest, honestly, and reflect. And something inside me shifted. I can't pinpoint it, but I was going into the new year and something clicked, and I realized that this was actually a gift. There was a silver lining in all of this, and it was a chance for me to pour into me and figure out what is my purpose outside of a job. Like, what do I want to do for work? What kind of environment do I want to be in? What do I want my legacy to be? So I joined some intentional communities. I wanted to do that as part of being around, high energy, like-minded people. It's how I met you. I've also been part of the Women's Purpose community, and I did a visioning program. And so I did all this work, and then the stars aligned, like the universe worked its magic. And I was a former colleague of mine reached out, and she created a role. She had me in mind. And so that's where I'm at today. I'm at Whitecap. It's a private equity backed construction distribution company. And I'm the VP of HR and talent, which means I lead our HR partner teams and also our talent and culture team. So it's a sweet spot for me. I love it. But yeah, there's been a lot in the past few years that have really shaped, how I show up today and how I lead.
Yes, I agree. Well, let's give a little shout out to some of all the beautiful commenters that I see so far. I know there's more out there, but Chasen Forehand, Tanya Thorson, Nadine Levine, Phil Danella, Ricky Passanelli, Stephen Ang, Emily Harrison. I think I got everybody. And one LinkedIn user who it's Kim Murphy. I don't know. We'll just guess. She always comes across as a LinkedIn user. And Samantha Fodor. Okay. And Zoom Party. I don't know who that is. And another LinkedIn user. Okay. So moving back to the questions, let's get right into it. So the question that I had teed up for you was, there a moment in your career that fundamentally changed the way you lead? And you had a few of them. So pick one.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Well, let me go back to Fiserv, because I think I've really learned what good, effective leadership looks like through my own leader, the CHRO at the time, and other leaders on his team. And I saw firsthand, they had placed a bet on me. So they actually pulled me up to the senior HR leadership team before I was actually a direct report to him. And again, this makes me really believe in paying it forward and taking bets on people. It was one of the best experiences to kind of get out of the divisional view or functional view and actually look at the enterprise level. But being able to see the types of discussions they had, the debates they had, it was the first time I realized what it means to create a safe space for constructive debate. And at first, I was such a people pleaser, and I had imposter syndrome. I was like, do I really belong here? I don't want to say anything stupid. So I really learned to trust myself and gain the confidence to say what I had to say. And they may not agree, but it's okay. They would respect me enough for even having a point of view, So I think that CHRO created that type of dynamic where he had high expectations, very clear expectations, and he got us to work together as a team that just got it.
What a gift.
We knew how to connect the dots. Oh, yeah. So that's what I try to emulate. Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. Okay. So one of my favorite questions, and this is one I ask every Leadership Lounge episode, is, what is your leadership superpower?
Yeah. I could answer this a few different ways. I'm going to say, I think one of my leadership specifically, it's I can toggle between the big picture thinking and getting into the weeds when needed. I think I get concepts quickly, and I can connect dots. And so, yeah, I think that served me well, and it's fun. There's a little bit of creativity that gets plugged in there too.
I love, you have other ones too, and we're going to get into them, but that's fine for now. So every superhero has kryptonite, because you can't be a superhero without your Achilles heel. So what's yours?
Every strength, if overused, can become a weakness. So I have always had this continuous improvement mindset. I think it's rooted in my GE experience. And so I can have a tendency, every time I turn over a rock or see something that's not working the way I think it should work, I want to go fix it. I honestly, that's something I have to manage every day.
Yeah.
So
It's
Um,
hard. I mean, because you, as leaders, you don't want to be a micromanager. You don't want to sit there and, be like, every time you see something, be like, ah,
yeah.
fix it. Because that gets really old. It gets really annoying.
Yes.
And it's really hard to pull back, but it's
Yeah.
important that we all do. Um, okay. What is a story about failure that turned out to be one of your greatest gifts?
Yeah. I love that question. So one of something I've always known about myself, but didn't fully appreciate was I I pick up on people's energy. I sense what's being said underneath. Um, and so for a long time in the beginning of my corporate career, that manifested in a way where I was ended up absorbing other people's energy and emotions,
Yeah,
and carrying that weight, and then sometimes like not trusting my intuition, like pushing it away
sure.
because I was just wanting to like show up and say the right thing to them, or it led to a lot of stress and like wearing different masks. And as I think about this journey I've been on today, that is my superpower. It's like one of my superpowers. And it's working for me now because I'm more grounded in who I am. So if I look back 5, 10 years ago, I didn't truly, that sense of self-worth was not what it is today. Back then it was tied so
Oh,
much to my job and my
yeah.
performance, what people thought of me.
I,
So
I can
that's a
relate
big,
I can
yeah,
relate to that one so much. I mean, we're
yeah,
both very intuitive leaders. We're very empathic, and three cheers for the woo in the room. There's lots of it in the audience as well as here, and I can I can completely relate to when you read people really fast, you know exactly where they stand, and that doesn't
yeah,
serve you well if you internalize it, and
yes,
if you don't have that confidence starting out like you described, it can be really damaging and it can really mess with your confidence. So
yeah,
I get
yes,
that. Now that we're seasoned and
yes.
older, we know how to use those superpowers for good. Um, okay, so here's a question for the HR leaders out there. What are HR leaders getting right now?
What are they getting? Oh, okay. So again, love your questions. I the HR leaders that I'm seeing be really successful are it's all about the post-COVID shift and just the shift to being your authentic self, like whole person at work,
Yeah.
and breaking down that old paradigm of the corporate self, 9 to 5, 8 to 5, always on, in the office 5 days a week. Like we all know that doesn't none of that works for everyone.
No.
And so the leaders I'm seeing are bringing just a fresh perspective. They're stepping up to the plate and like questioning the challenge quo. They're not order takers. They're not just saying yes. They have a point of view and they're in their business first, but they bring that heart-centered kind of human lens to the conversation. That's those are the folks who are crushing it.
I think that's so great. And can we talk a little bit about? Um, I feel really strongly that HR needs a seat at the table. And
Mhm.
the organizations that I worked for, HR was always forced to be in a reactive mode. And I thought that that was such a disservice to them and to the teams that they supported. And the joke of it all was they were called an HR partner and they couldn't be a
Yeah.
partner. They were there to put
Yeah.
out fires and handle ugly stuff. And that was such a poor way to utilize them. So when you see VPs of HR versus CHROs or chief people officers, what are your thoughts on what companies are doing with those roles and what's the best
Yeah.
scenario?
Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely this whole seat at the table is like it's like so cliche, right? But it's like true. It's
It's so
cliche for a
true.
reason. And I have to say, like when I earlier in the intro when I was talking about like how I was raising 3 kids and like climbing the corporate ladder and no shade to Sheryl Sandberg. I love her, but I did read Lean In when I was like in that stage of my life. It burned gasoline on like my already like on
Ugh,
fire ambition, and I would interpret that book differently now. Again, it's like in the moment, it was like, yes, she's like speaking my language. Like I want to
yeah,
go, 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 go. So yeah, having a seat at the table is important. I mean, everyone wants to be respected and be able to, to influence. And I think a big challenge, some of the HR leaders get it, but they're at places where inherently the leader, the CEO or the other leaders don't. And that's for me like a values misalignment. And you
Yeah.
have to decide, do you think you can actually be successful here in shifting that model or not? And so I know when I was going through my job search, a year and a half ago or 2 years ago, um, I refused to settle. I refused, despite not having a paycheck. I was like, I'm not taking the first job offer. This is going to be rooted in where I can be effective. And so I think that's probably what HR leaders are dealing with the most right now is it a values alignment or not?
Yeah, I love that. I actually, here's my HR story from when I was in sales at IBM. I had a phenomenal leader. I loved her so much. And we were going to do a team meeting out in Colorado. And she was like, Linz, I'm going to invite our HR partner. And I went, why? And it wasn't that I doubted her. It was just
Yeah.
I'd never heard of a leader do this before. And she said, well, how can he help us if he doesn't know who we are? And I
Yeah.
was like, why are you the first leader to ever show this to me? And I never forgot it. And it changed the way I viewed HR. It changed the way I worked with HR for every team after that. And, whenever I took on a new team, they were my first call. First, it was to connect, introduce each other, and say, I want you as a part of this. But second, I was like,
Yeah.
I need to know how everyone's getting paid. And I need to
Yeah.
know
Yeah.
who needs a raise. And I'm going to
Yeah.
be really aggressive about it. And they were like, oh. And
Yes.
I strong armed a lot of them, but I righted a lot of wrongs, which was important.
That is important. And
Yeah.
that's been part of my journey too, is that sometimes there's been companies where the top gets it, but then it's a matter of educating every level of leadership, of management. And that's been kind of fun because I have had multiple examples where I had to go in and kind of I had to educate different levels of leadership on, okay, I know you have this view of HR and this is how it's worked for you in the past, but here's kind of how I'm going to evolve it while I'm here. And it didn't, everyone has been so open. Like there's very little pushback. They're more skeptical. So, okay, you say all this, it sounds great.
Right.
But that there's so much to your point, like it really is an unlock for a leader to have a strong HR partner and a strong relationship and leverage them fully, because that role, like the beauty of it, you typically have people who are emotionally intelligent and they're connecting dots, and they're able to kind of shoot you straight. And so who wouldn't want a partner, who can hold up the mirror?
Yeah. It's such a shame when HR is only in a reactive mode. And I can remember another time when I was at the last company I was at, and we had a really lousy onboarding. Like it was really bad. And it was one of those things where everybody was like, it's not my job. And I stop here. And I reached out to the HR partner and I was like, you guys have a really important role in this. And it seems like nobody wants to take accountability, but if this is our first impression and this is how we're bringing people in, don't you want to level this up? Like, don't you want to clean it up? And I was just met with a whole lot of, And I was like, oh my God, why don't you care? And conversely, I talked to Mark Peters, who's the CEO of Butterball Farms, and he read my book and he was like, oh my God, I can't believe we missed that. And he's like, I've gone back to my team to make sure our onboarding is really thorough and everybody feels welcomed and connected. And I thought, gosh, there's a leader who gets it. Isn't that nice?
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yeah. It's the very foundation of like the associate experience is that first impression. And if you can't get that right, it's like, how are they supposed to get excited and trust, that this is going to be a good place to work? But yeah. And I had a little like cringe reaction because that's one of my pet peeves is, well, leadership principle with my team and everything is you got to take accountability. Like none of this stuff like that. That just doesn't serve anyone.
Yeah. So how do you handle that? Because, I think it's I must have spent 5 hours on the phone this week with Delta Dental trying to sort out my children's dental coverage, which was the like most classic example of it's not my job, or, ooh, I can't do that, or, ooh, I don't know how to do that. So sorry, you have to call someone else. You have to email someone else. It was so frustrating. How do you handle that?
Yeah. I set the expectation with my team that it is important to me that we are each accountable and have ownership. Now, I always have a little bit of, there's nuance in that. So like, for example, on the back to the continuous improvement piece, what I have said to my team is if you see something that isn't great or is broken or whatever, I'm not saying you have to go fix it right then and there. I mean, maybe not, maybe it's not even yours to fix, but you need to see something, say something, make sure the right person does get the information. So I try to like just balance it, but I do encourage them and empower them to, when they are working through a process or building out something, they need to feel a personal sense of ownership, and not just pass it to the next person, not just complete a task. And that's, it's harder than it sounds. I mean, and
It
for
is
leaders,
hard. And I think really healthy culture also leads to really solid the feeling of ownership. And
yes,
as soon as your trust is fractured, nobody feels like they own anything. In fact, they just push away. So how do
exactly.
you do that?
Yeah, I mean, and HR is interesting because, you know, behind the curtain, you have the HR partners, which are employee and manager facing, but behind that team is a team of specialists from comp and
Sure.
ben to HRIS to all the things. And what I tell the team all the time is no one in the business cares how this thing needs to get done. Just get it done. You know, like work together, get it done. Don't like do this. Work together to meet the client's needs, meet the employee's needs, and do it in a way that is as efficient as possible, right? So yeah, I think it's making sure that all the different parts of the HR team understand and appreciate what the value that each role brings, and then really getting clear on how you expect them to work together to deliver for the business, because it has to be a seamless experience. And you know, for example, like the HR partners a lot of times are asked to go carry the message forward on an enterprise initiative or a change. And if they don't fully own that message, or they don't understand, if they don't understand the why, they're not set up to
Yeah.
succeed. And if they don't understand the why or don't agree with it, like I tell them, we need to talk about it, because you can't go
Yeah.
out to the business unless you own this, like it's your decision, you know? So that's how I
Ooh.
navigate kind of the day to
Good
day.
one. Look at that gorgeous comment from Christine Scott. Genuinely one of the
Yeah.
good ones. I'm grateful for having the opportunity to have worked for Maggie more than once. An amazing leader who actually walks the walk, and it shows in how she supports and empowers her team. Thank you, Christine.
Christine.
So
Love
good,
you.
so good. All right, so let me do a little bit of a gift for our listeners. So you guys know I love a deal. I also love a little luxury, and many of you have already taken advantage of this one. But if you go out to cozyearth.com, in fact, I've got a thing right here. Hold on. If you go out to cozyearth.com, there's a QR code that will take you right there. You'll get 41% off with my code lead with heart, which is fantastic. It's the deepest discount you're going to get anywhere. And at that link that I have the QR code, there's more brands that are adding all the time that have more discounts. So it's holiday time, shopping time. Go buy yourself something good. I love when my friends shop. I get commission, you get a deal. Everybody wins. It's so good. And guys, if you like this show, if you like what we're doing here, first of all, I have an opening in January. I have just one spot for January 22nd. So if you'd like to be featured, reach out to me, shoot me a DM, but please share the show. I'm trying to highlight what great leaders look and feel like, or look and sound like, not feel like, that would be really weird, but look and sound like. And I hope that you are enjoying these conversations as much as I am having them. Okay, shall we do a little speed round fun?
Oh yeah, let's do it. I'm
Okay,
excited.
so every episode we do a little speed round. I try and make the topics appropriate for my guest, and you're supposed to say either lead it if you like it, leave it if you hate it. Some
Okay.
people get confused. It's okay. You can elaborate. There's no guns to your head. It's okay. Okay, so the first one is RTO, otherwise known as return to the office mandates.
I'm gonna leave it, but I might get in trouble for that later.
I have strong
Yeah.
feelings on this one, but I will.
I'm gonna leave it. But here's I gotta add though.
Yeah.
I think you got to meet every company where they are, and I'm at a place now where it's a hybrid 2 days a week, and it's working.
Great.
It's working. It's working. Just I don't know however you want to define that. So I'm not anti being in office, but also the mandate's a hard word for me. You gotta make sure if you feel like that really is the right path for that company and that culture, you got to explain the what's in it for me. If you just say, nope, we're doing this blanket, I mean, that's just, ugh.
I mean, guys, if you are
Yeah.
a leader and you are hearing this and you are demanding your people come back into the office, can you just give it a little bit of forethought? Because companies I worked for that did that, that said you have to come in, their teams weren't even in the office. So what was the point? They were just doing
Mhm.
Zooms when they could have been doing Zooms at home and they could have been more productive. So really think it through. It's just to have a
Yeah.
blanket get back in the office, I think is just a little short-sighted.
Yeah.
Okay, next one. Quiet promotions.
Hmm. I mean, I want to make sure I know, like quiet, like just you just don't announce them,
Uh, I'll give you an
or like it's off
example.
cycle.
And now I'm
Mm.
like priming the pump if I tell you this, but
Yeah.
my a girlfriend of mine was promoted to director, and they said you can't tell anybody about this because the
Okay.
guys are
No,
going to
leave
get
it.
mad.
Leave it. That's the
Yeah,
most ridiculous thing I've ever heard.
I think it's
That
pretty
makes me
terrible.
mad.
If you're going to promote someone, celebrate them.
Yes.
Um,
And do the comp increase and do the announcement and yeah.
yes, yes, they earned it.
Yes.
Okay, annual performance reviews.
Yeah, I'm gonna say stuff. This is not, I'm not on behalf of Whitecap saying anything. That disclaimer. Okay. Yeah, I would say leave it. You still need performance touch bases. You need it for
Yes,
a bunch of reasons, including calibration and comp decision, how to optimize your budget. But yeah, I think moving to a more fluid kind of ongoing set of touch bases is way more practical and meaningful.
100%. 100%. I feel like there's some statistics saying you can only remember the last 6 weeks of your work with
Yeah,
somebody. So how are you going
if
to
that.
remember
I'm like,
what happened in
yeah,
February and in March when it's December? Like it's just
yeah.
that's a really
It's really
poor.
antiquated. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't agree. Okay, here's an interesting one. Mental health stipends.
Oh, lead it.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
Um, Oh, here's a little comment from our friend Ricky. Okay, back to the questions. Okay, fractional CHROs.
Lead it. Yeah.
Yeah, I like
There's like, there's a space for there's enough space for all of us, and there's a need. There's clearly a need in the market for fractional
it. Mhm,
leaders. And again, it's like all about where the company is, what stage they're in, the
mhm.
leadership dynamic, what they're trying to do. Especially in the startup space, that's obviously really you would see it in this more the startup space than you would kind of the bigger companies. Yeah, it's like they have a ton. People have a ton of expertise, and a lot of times they have expertise that's perfectly suited for the stage that that company's in.
I
So
love that.
yeah, go in and
Yeah,
get the infrastructure set up.
I love the idea of fractional leadership on the whole. I
Hmm.
think sometimes that
Yeah.
fractional leadership only needs to be a few months. Sometimes it
Yep.
needs to be a year. And
Yeah.
sometimes that year turns into a full placement. But I
Yep.
think when they can come to the table with some really valuable skills, it can be really cool. All right. I had it written one way, but I'm going to change it and I'm going to
Okay.
keep it broad because I want you to elaborate. Your thoughts on DEI?
Oh, lens. Getting political.
Not really.
I,
I'm trying not
no, I
to.
know.
I
No,
mean, we
no, no. I
can.
mean, okay,
But
so I, as a human, like, I hate that I love DE&I. So let me say that. I
yeah.
love diversity and inclusion as a principle. Like, we are all more similar than we are different. And like, I think the hard thing about DE&I and the way that it's been defined and labeled and stereotyped and weaponized is sickening.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. My body is like having a visceral reaction right now. So yeah, I mean, one thing I'm really proud about at Whitecap, and this is part of why I joined, we literally call it our inclusive culture.
Yeah.
And so we've never used the term DE&I internally because we
Mhm.
didn't have to. It was built into the way that we approach our work and our practices. And, you know, it's just, it's sad to see what's happened to companies that were trying to move the needle, but now are not allowed to in that type of like more rigorous, systematic way. So at the end of the day, like the hope of it all is that you have leaders and cultures where they recognize the best outcomes come from all different walks of life and backgrounds.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, I mean, that's where you get the best out of each other. So, and for people to do their best work, they have to feel like they're seen. They have to see themselves in
Yeah.
others. It's just it's so silly that we
I,
have
I I
created
love
this.
that you said that, and I think your point on when it's written into the bylaws of how you run your business, it doesn't need to be a concept. It's just part
No.
of how you
Yeah.
function.
Don't need to
And
talk about it. Just
I like that move that companies are making to continue to honor that space. And in my opinion, the reality is that DE and I wouldn't exist if things were all fine.
oh,
They're not.
right. Right.
They're
Right.
not. So
Wow.
we need to do better. Um,
Yeah.
oh, look at that from our friend Nadine. Great answers,
Nads.
Maggie. Good job. Okay, so that's the end of our speed round. This is a question that I just love because you and I are both this way, but how has intuition played into your career journey?
Yeah. Well, I mentioned earlier, I've always had it. I don't think I fully appreciated it or nurtured it. But I will say it's always been there, and it's always played a big role in definitely my navigating career decisions. I've always gone with my gut. Now, granted, I didn't not initially. I would do like all the pros and cons lists and Excel files and ranking systems. And
Yeah.
actually, I want to share something my dad shared with me at one point, and it was like you can make all the pros and cons lists that you want. At the end of the day, though, you have to trust your gut. And so that has stayed with me. And I've really been focusing on that these past few years in every aspect of my life.
Yeah, I love that. Um, what's a misconception that people have about people first leadership?
That it's, well, hey, I'm about to say soft. And I think soft
I
has
knew you were going to say
unfortunately been, I know, softness has also been weaponized. But softness is just about like creating space for there to be
that.
like an exchange between people and to seek to understand where they're coming from and to feel comfortable sharing.
Mhm.
It's just that's what softness means to me. And so I think, yeah, leaders really need to embrace that and not be afraid that it's weakness. The best, as we've talked about all day, right? The best leaders are ones who show up authentically and are rooted in who they are and see the potential in everyone, right? And
Mhm.
have the tough conversations. So
Mhm. Who believed in you before you believed in you? Let's give them their
um
flowers.
well, it's so like my first I'm going to answer this. I'm going to answer this one way, then I'm going to actually tweak it a little bit. The question. So I have to say, I mean, my gut reaction is my parents, because I even think about me as a parent. Like, of course,
Totally
like
allowed.
any of my kids, they can do whatever they're amazing. They can do whatever they want. Get out of your own way, kiddo. Like, go do it. So I'd have to say, like, I do think my parents always believed in me. The question, I might reframe it to say, who really saw me and believed in me before I really saw me and believed in me? And I would answer that differently. Um, this probably is going to sound weird. I would say my therapist.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with that. Your
Like,
therapist knows you, but your
oh,
therapist probably also pulled out some really important things that you couldn't see in
yeah.
yourself.
Oh my God. I mean, she's been with me from day one of my dad, grieving my dad. And I think I look back and I just kind of like, whoa, she's like seen it. She's seen it.
Yeah,
And,
that's good.
but she's always seen what was really there and helped me on my own, get there. So
Mhm.
yeah,
So you and I can both read a room.
yeah.
What is a subtle signal you look for in a room when you're trying to assess the tone or how things are going to go in a meeting?
Mm, well, yeah, there's definitely like, it's hard to put words around, like you feel an energy when you're in it. You can
Mhm.
feel if it's constricted, you can just feel if there's tension. So I guess what I like positive signs of like a healthy room would be people are chatting with each other, like having maybe real conversations, like laughing, making eye contact, asking non-work questions,
Yeah.
just being human.
Yeah, I always could tell, even on Zoom, I got really good at ascertaining the mood in the room. And
Yeah.
I can remember I had one employee she wouldn't come on camera for like the first 3 weeks of working together. And then slowly her camera started to come on because we were building some trust.
Mhm.
And then she started putting on some makeup. And then she was leaning
Oh,
in, and I'm like, okay,
yeah,
I'm making some headway.
yeah.
But you could tell immediately when people were like, you
Oh,
know,
yeah, body
sitting
language, yep.
back or, just like
Yeah.
disconnected
Tone, everything.
or not looking at the camera, not looking at the screen, looking down.
Yeah.
I mean, those are
Yeah.
easy ones to see, but it's those really, really subtle skills or subtle signals that I always worry about and this is something I think leaders always have to be so thoughtful about their words, and you
Yes.
can fracture trust so quickly if you say the wrong thing.
Words really do matter, and the other thing is, as a leader, you've gotta pick up on those pay attention to those cues and know when you need. I've had times where I've seen the nonverbal of my team, like, if I think of times in my, like, direct report meetings,
Yeah.
and something will be said, and I can just see someone's either still processing and doesn't quite know how they feel about it, or someone is, like, not loving it,
Yeah.
and so I'll be like, "Hey, like, I feel like you're having a reaction to this. Like, tell me, do you want to share about
Yeah.
it? Like, what do you think?" And just you have to open up the space and like make it safe
That's
to
it.
speak your piece. Yeah.
I think making it safe is huge. It's really, really important, and I don't
Yeah.
think enough leaders do that. I feel like so many leaders have the time constraints, the quota constraints, the goals, the board,
Yes.
all of the things that they have to answer to, and so we're on this kind of like pedal to the metal
Yeah.
mode, but you can do an awful lot of damage if you don't stop to check
Yes.
in and ask people how they're doing. So
Yes.
how do you work with your directs? How do you check in with them?
Well, we definitely have like ongoing one-on-ones, and part of that is always like, what's going on for you this week? Like, how are you doing? Like, how are you doing?
Yeah.
What's anything bothering you? Just kind of make sure that's just part of the natural conversation. I always let them drive the agenda. Of course, if I have things, I make sure we talk through it. But it's really, I think those one-on-ones is that's really core to the building the trust and making sure they feel seen and heard. Um, so that, and then also like, I don't know, I text, or if it's a quick phone call. I mean, I'm not saying it's all the time, but just like keep the keep different channels open. And those little check-ins are just, I don't know, it's just showing that you're accessible, that you
Mhm.
care enough to respond. You may be busy, but they've texted you. Like, just, I don't know. Yeah, just keep on showing up.
Yeah.
And
I
I
don't
don't know,
think it has to be that hard. And
it
I think,
doesn't. It doesn't.
sometimes I hear leaders, I don't have enough time for one-on-ones. And I get very
Hmm,
upset
hmm.
when I hear that because to me, if you're in this role, you're responsible to your people. You have to do
Yes,
that. That's part of the
that's
function
what.
of your job. And
Yeah,
if you have too many meetings, work on
that's
that. Like
exactly.
that's not
Yeah,
necessary.
I totally agree. And it's like anyone who says, I don't have time for that. No, okay, you're not making time for that. So
Mhm.
ask yourself why. And yeah,
Mhm.
okay.
Mhm. I agree. Um, what's a leadership belief you hold now that your younger self wouldn't have understood?
Hmm. It's a good one, Lens. Because my mind's going to more like uh, almost like HR principles versus broader leadership. My first thing that came to mind was like, I think in the early part of my career, I was very black and white and like academic in my approach. So take, the concept of org design, and and I would be like, a leader would be designing around a person, and I'd be like, you can't do that. You can't do that. It's not in the
Mm,
textbook. Like, it's not what you do. And like, you fast forward and you actually get lived experience, and you're like, okay, it's not as simple as like, you got to
yeah,
factor in the people on the field, like.
yeah.
So yeah, I guess maybe another leadership principle that I feel differently now. Maybe it's more just like my experience with it has been different, but um, I think I used to accept. And I didn't do this, but I think I accepted leaders who led out of from a place of fear and condescending and like, I got you moments,
Oh, yeah.
which of course I never have done that.
Mhm.
But also, as an associate now, I will not tolerate that. And
Mm-mm.
I'm like going back to, I'm much more confident going,
I'm
hey,
the same though. When I
this
was
is how I
younger, I
feel.
just
Like,
thought that that was
it's
normal. I thought
normal.
like we
Yeah.
just treat people like crap and intimidate them and
Yes.
yell at them and belittle them and
Yeah.
embarrass them and use lots of stupid sports analogies. And it
Yeah.
wasn't until I had like
Yeah.
my first great leader that I was like, wait a minute, this is nothing like all that. This
No,
is
it
so
doesn't need to
much
be that.
better. And I'm performing so
Yeah.
much better. Um,
Yeah.
I love that. So, what are some wise words for? We'll do it two ways for HR leaders and leaders in general.
Oh, yeah, HR leaders, I just continue to, you know, use your voice, amplify the things that you know are important. You know, pick your battles for sure. But I guess going back, it would be, again, if you feel like you are not in alignment from a values perspective, that your actual impact and potential to make an impact is limited because of just the personalities you're around, don't suffer through that. There are so many better options. Life's too short.
Yeah.
And then for leaders in general, I would say this is maybe more of like a cry for help and just like plea, like regulate your nervous systems, like the way that you regulate yourself and the more aware you are of yourself and what lifts you up and what your triggers are and your shadows, all that stuff. If you're not grounded in that truth, like you're inevitably leading your team and your company that way, which is not sustainable and isn't setting the right expectation. So get to know yourself.
Mm-hmm. What's next for you?
Ah, um, gosh. Okay. I mean, work is work, right? So that will be fun. But on other parts of my life, I'm continuing to like chase live music. So that was something I started doing more intentionally last year. So trying to go to a lot of just local live bands and also concerts whenever they're in town. And I also have been writing, like playing around with writing for the past year. And it's really been fun to unlock that creative side of me.
Yeah.
And really reflect on all these different experiences I've had, personal and work related, and really start to see the full picture of my story and my journey. And so putting that into words has been really fulfilling. So
Good.
I think more to come on that in 26. Yeah.
Good. Well, if anyone watching this isn't connected to Maggie, that is her LinkedIn info. So grab that QR code there. Look for her on her. It's a fairly common name, so you're going to want to look for her here and reach out. Tell her you heard her on the Leadership Lounge, and tell her I sent you. And I'll just pop this back up for folks to. Where is it? Where did it go? Show. That's not working. Never mind. I was going to show the banner again of the Cozy Earth thing, but I can't do it. So it's not going to happen. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this 45 minutes with the beautiful Maggie Brady. She is an incredible leader who leads with heart. And I hope we gave you lots of good stories and good ammo. And next week, we've got Denise Spears Kipper. Here we go. There she is. She'll be entering the Leadership Lounge. So excited to have time with her and shine the spotlight on her. And guys, thank you for watching. Thank you for telling your friends. And I hope you enjoyed this time together. Mags, you're amazing.
Yes.
This
Love you, Linz.
was a ton of fun. Thank you so much. And thanks
Yes.
everybody
Thank
for
you.
watching.
All right. Cheers.
Get out there and go lead with heart.